Okay, can we hear me now? Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm seeing sound waves popping up on the studio thing, so I'm hoping there is sound now, Wynette. Thank you for letting me know, and hopefully we can maintain sound and I haven't lost everybody. And apologies on the replay when you're watching this and you're seeing a dead and frozen screen for a period of time while we tried to get sound back. So hopefully now everybody can hear me. Okay, so for recapping without sound, we've been playing around with our little flower that's in everybody's boxes. We've we had I had 12 of these available to me to purchase from my supplier. So we had 6 in pink, 5 in purple, and 1 white. So I opted to make 10 boxes for you guys to beat along with me. So we had 5 purple and 5 pink that went out, hence the pink and purple color box options. And we're playing around with these guys today. So as you would have seen, I have secured my piece 2 here without using any E6000 glue, so it's quite loose. It's just held down by thread. I did a round of stitching, as you would have seen, to secure it just with the fire line on its own because there is some little gaps at the back of this design, and now I am filling it with seed beads. So these are size 15s in 94202, which is the Duracoat Champagne. So I'm just using 9 going in. We experimented with 10, but 9 looks a lot better. So you can just see there the little gap in between the crystal, and that's just where I've been working to basically fill that gap and fill that with seed beads. That's kind of a recap of where we're at from where we lost sound. So thank you for Wynette. Wish I'd brought the chat up a little bit sooner to have seen that. So I apologize for everyone for beating so much in silence. Okay, so now that I've done my little circle, I love this in that it's filling the little gap, but it's also providing a nice little detail. I want to also now encircle that little rhinestone just to give a nice little detail, and it's what I did on this one here, which was my little sample fun piece. So to do that, I am just going to wiggle my way back up through one of these holes, and this is where it gets really, really tight. So we're just going to come back up wherever we can come back up. So we've come back up through that one, and what I'm going to do, and you will notice we do start to lose these seed beads into the work. So that's also why I wanted to grab that last one that we put on. And as we've grabbed that, it'll stop them all from sinking in. And it looks like I did 2 or 3, so I'm just going to pick up 3 and we'll just see how that looks. And we're just going to find that, as I said, working my way through to find that last one. And I think I just threaded myself. No. And I'm actually not liking how that looks on this one, so I am actually going to undo that. I might just leave that one plain. The pink one, mine had a lot more gaps, so I did that, and it's this way, they're a little bit different. So we're just going to undo that. That's the fun thing about being able to change your mind, even when you're doing a live. Okay, so I've just taken all of that off. 15s can be a little too fiddly to back thread through, hence why I didn't back thread through them once I had it on. And I'm turning the light on so I can actually see, and just rethreading my needle. which does not want to go today. Sorry, I'm doing that off camera because I prefer to try and do that over a dark surface when I'm on using Fireline crystals so I can actually see it. Okay, this is why I also start lives with pre-threaded needles. Okay, so I'm just going to push that thread back down in there and we will come out and do something different. So I'm happy with that. You guys can take the option if you want to go around your middle like I've done in that one. I'm choosing not to on this particular round. As I said, in your kit you got ginkgo beads and you got kite beads. So I am actually going to work with the kites in this particular design. So to do that, I actually am going to have them so they are lining up and sticking out. And I've got two ways to play with the kites. I could just have a skinny bit sticking out, and I kind of like that detail. The ginkgos gave you the more rounded shape. Let me get one out. I think I've got my tube of them. They're on my mat. So if you were using the ginkgos, you can see they kind of slot in. If I can get it to turn. Beads are not my friend today. The ginkgos can give you more keeping going with that curved nature. The kite you will give you a bit more of a spiky nature. So I can work with it going that way, or I can work with the fatter end coming out. I kind of like the idea of having the skinnier end sticking out, kind of like more of a leafy detail. So that's the way I'm going to go today. But that's the fun of this, is you guys can, have a bit of fun choosing your own adventure because I've given you both options to play with this time. Okay, so we are going to get our thread. I'm just going to get it to come alongside one of the edges of the beads. And as I said, I'm going to do the skinny end. One thing with 2-hole beads is just double check both of your holes before you actually start working, just to make sure you can get your needle through, because the worst thing in the world is if you've stitched in one side and then you find the other side is not working. Okay, so we've just got our first one stitched in. So I'm quite happy with that. I like where that's sitting. So I am just going to come straight up and stitch the other side down because I want him to sit right there and not be disturbed in the process. And of course my finger is right under where that needle now needs to go. So we've got that there. I'm actually going to go through that one more time because I really want to anchor that bead right in that spot. And I want to try and get that needle very close to that bead. Not so much room to maneuver. We will be passing through this hole again, obviously, to add seed beads and things like that in, but I just want to make sure he is nice and anchored and not going anywhere. So that is our first little prong out. So I'm just going to repeat that. So we'll just sanity check. Yes and yes. Okay, so we just want to make sure we like the line, and so for me that's the point, keeping in line with those seed beads. If you're using the ginkgos, you've only got one. You've just got the little tip of the ginkgo to worry about, making sure he's nice and lined up, or not worry about it at all. It's entirely up to you guys. Okay, So I've got the 2 in. I'm going to secure that, and I'm going to show you guys some edging detail. I'll just work between these 2, and then we can come back and I can do the rest later, so you're not watching me do the same thing over and over and over and over again. So now it's a matter of how do I want to fill in the gaps between here and cover this and get this into a circular shape if I want this to be a circular shape. I personally do, but that's my personal preference. You could look at, how could you square this off? How could you make it a multi-point piece? That's the fun of seed bead embroidery. It's kind of, play however you want. So I have some 11s in the Duracoat, and I've also got in the gilt lined opal, one of my favorite beads to play with. I love the way these guys just absolutely light up and shine. So they are kind of fun to play with. So I'm thinking we might just experiment. And this is not pre-thought out because this is different to my first design. I'm just going a 1-to-1 ratio and just seeing what this is going to look like. So if we take that number of beads, and I'm kind of just looking, how can we go from whole to whole? And we're coming out of the top hole, so I need to go back to that top hole. So if we look at one more series, potentially. So obviously if I had all of my leaves in, I would, run that completely around so that this was nice and loose. That's kind of the first effect that I am looking at. And then what I can do here is come back in and fill with some other beads. So I like that. So we're going to lock that down. So yeah, this is now just the fun part of experimenting and adding in to see where you want to take it. So if I am, say, going to go and space fill in here, it's a matter of getting my needle in. And say I want to work with I'm just picking up the gilt line and 15. I'm just going to pop that in so that the 8 is actually sticking up. I'm going to ignore that little 15 and then just go back through my 8. So we've just got, that's now nicely filled in. The beautiful thing about this being the white is that the white felt just blends nicely into the background, and that's where you can have fun changing up the colors of your background fabrics. Felts are kind of fun because they're nice and soft. I have also painted and used different textures and things on stiff stuff to color in backgrounds as well. So you can do a lot of that as well. And that also helps you to, just blur out some of those little backgrounds. Yeah, also just popping in, seed beads that way, treating it almost like a brick stitch, with a little picot detail. So that's given me my little round. That is completely unanchored. If I did want to come across and anchor that, what I might do is say pop up in the middle there and just, snag thread, pull through. I actually don't until I've got all of that in there at the moment. So I'm just going to pull my needle back through. But that would be one way of securing that once I've got a little bit more in. From here, what I am thinking is maybe I do just a run of all of the whites. This might actually not have as much detail as the other one. I might just keep this one really simple. And we might just do a run of just the white beads across back to here. Not sure. There's a couple of ways I could look at doing that. I could just look at leaving it completely and utterly loose and unanchored, which is not what I want to do where it's, say, the edge detail, where it's the edge detail, and we might just do it the way we did the start of last week. So if we pick up our 4 beads, and normally I work the opposite direction, so this is a little bit more of a tricky challenge. So we're going to go down, and then come back up, go through the 2, pick up 4 more. Now you can do this with 2s, you can do this with 4s as we discussed last week. That's entirely up to you. But yeah, I could also choose to add in some of the gold. It's just a matter of play. That's a little messy. That's coming up messy just because this isn't anchored. And ideally, I would have put all of those in and run that all the way around, then done these guys, and then done my edge row. But wanted to do a quicker demo for you guys, particularly after having sound issues. So yeah, what I did with this one, as you can see, I filled in my gaps a little bit differently. I had running between my ginkgos, I did gaps and put in a 15 at the top of each of those, sorry, an 8 at the top, which I didn't do on these ones. So yeah, it's a matter of playing how you like, and that's the beautiful thing, is you've got ginkgos to play with, you've got kites to play with, you've got a couple of different sizes of seed beads. Feel free to raid your stash at home as well for those of you beading along. And yeah, I will be back next week with all of that part done, so it's looking a bit like this, and we will finish it off. I've got some fun leather backing, but we are also going to experiment and turn one of these into a magnetic brooch. So not something I've done before. We've added them to the range because we had a couple of people ask, and I've seen some other people playing around with them, particularly Paula. So thought we'd add them to the range, and I thought, well, this is a great chance for me to play with one and figure it out. So I'm going to be doing some experiments over the weekend as to how I want that finished piece to look, and I will share all of that with you guys next week. So thank you for coming along for part 1. Sorry about all of the tech issues with losing the microphone. It just seems to be that week for me of things going wrong, but that's all good. And I'm looking forward to getting this one finished using the kite beads as a fun little spiky thing. And yeah, I will share you some photos of that over the weekend as I get that ready for part 2 next week. And I will see you guys next Friday. Have fun and enjoy some creative time in the middle of this glorious summer weather we're having in the middle of spring. Yeah, it's going to be a fun summer at this rate. I will see you guys next Friday. Bye for now.